now we proceed to the former Minister of Defense, who's been so successful, Tinatin Khidasheli, and we're so grateful to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here and having this discussion. Also, thank you very much for the support Georgian people always had from the United States, from the Congress, from the House of Representatives, as well as the Senate. I'm here today to try at least to represent the majority opinion of Georgian people who've been fighting for partnerships, standing together with the United States over the years, over 3 dozens of years, and building a viable democratic state. I'm here to defend Georgia's single most important foreign policy priority, maintaining and strengthening our strategic partnership with the United States. It is very important for us to expose the authoritarian drift and present alarming evidence that the Georgian Dream government has systematically and rapidly abandoned these national interests of a country, turning instead towards alliances with the authoritarian powers. And finally, I will try to show why Georgia matters to America. Madam President already identified some of the points. I will try to echo them and add some more additional argument. The concrete evidence I bring here today speaks not just about Georgian government's departure from the strategic partnership with the US, but speaks first and foremost about their departure from the will and strategic interests of the Georgian people. This is departure from the cause that led Georgian hero Georgi Antokhelidze to sacrifice his life while being tortured by Russians in 2008. This is departure from the cause which led Georgian journalist Mzia Amaglobeli to sacrifice her freedom just a couple of months back while protecting the cause of Antokhelidze from the increasing anti-Western and pro-Russian government of Georgia. I speak here as a former Minister of Defense and of a country that proudly fought shoulder to shoulder with the American army in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. Georgia was the largest non-NATO, the second largest contributor of troops in Afghanistan. We paid a heavy price with the highest casualty rate and 435 wounded servicemen. Let me begin with a simple truth. There is no security of Georgia without the partnership with the United States. It never was, and there is no viable option for it to ever exist. Without the United States' assistance and commitment, Georgia's statehood would not have been secured and would not have survived. It was US involvement in 2008 that stopped Putin in Georgia during the August War. US leadership has been and remains central to the non-recognition policy of our breakaway territories occupied by Russia. It was US assistance that helped us build a modern army and state institutions. It was the US assistance that helped us build hospitals, schools, develop university programs. List is very long. And we hope this partnership can be saved and will stay there. Georgia matters for the United States, Europe, and the international community for 3 fundamental reasons. First, its geography. Second, its strategic connectivity. And third, its democratic example. Georgia lies at the very heart of Middle Corridor, the modern Silk Road route linking east and west, north and south, bypassing Russia and Iran. We may be small in size, but our competitive advantage has been our role as a gateway and a connector. We link Central Asia and European markets through pipelines, railways, and ports. This is not only the trade route. It is what I call the corridor of freedom. Corridor where goods, energy, data, people fly without interference, without political blackmail. There is so much present on the northern route and in the south of Georgia. Unlike its northern alternative, it is the road where there is no political blackmail. It is both practical and politically reliable for the United States and its allies. For the United States, the Middle Corridor offer is invaluable. Resilience in the face of authoritarian strongholds, given the fundamentalist threats from Iran, authoritarian menace of Russia, seeking to weaponize its geography, and China cementing BRI. Obviously, the Middle Corridor provides democratic alternative to all of that. Georgia is its anchor. Without Georgia, there is no free corridor. Lose it, and door opens to Russia, Iran, and China. Here is the report I distributed at this hearing about the Iran's ambitions in Georgia, modern ambitions in Georgia, about the ways Georgian Dream tries to avoid sanctions set on the Iran, how Iranians see Georgia as a heaven for their economic activities using Georgian territory, using companies established in Georgia. I will not go in details of it, but here is an evidence-based proof of all those problems the Georgian Dream represents in today's world from this very particular point of view. A free, democratic, Western-oriented Georgia is unacceptable to Moscow, Tehran, and increasingly problematic for Beijing. And unfortunately, today's ruling party, Georgian Dream, has chosen a path that serves those authoritarian interests rather than resisting them. They undermined institutions, manipulated elections, criminalized dissents, arrested opposition leaders, used violence against peaceful protests, and refused to protect the will of the Georgian people expressed at the ballot box. Georgian Dream has deepened ties with authoritarian powers. They court Chinese companies while blocking US businesses from opportunities in the Middle Corridor. Georgian Dream has created a textbook-level case of a nuclear seaport where the American-Georgian consortia was kicked out and the promise was made for the Chinese company to come. Unfortunately, it has not happened yet, but there is a very strong interest on the Georgian Dream side to pave the way to the Chinese company. And here you can see lots of, all these reports are about the Chinese involvement in Georgia, are about the Chinese kleptocratic deals with the Chinese companies made by the Georgian government. Very important point, not to be mistaken, China is not investing in Georgia. There are no Chinese investments in Georgia. Instead, they win procurement bids one after another under the favorable conditions and reap benefits from Georgia. Here we've been investigating, researching, writing about those dirty deals over the years, company after another. And while the United States have invested billions in the Georgian economy and provided over $4 billion in aid for the Georgian state institutions, the Chinese, exploiting the corrupt and kleptocratic nature of the Georgian Dream government, is gaining more and more. They secured over $4.5 billion, and this represents only a small portion of contracts they have received. Let me stress this point again, so as not to be misled. There is no significant FDI coming from China to Georgia. It is all your money, international financial institutions' money, American money, European Union taxpayers' money, Georgian taxpayers' money. This is the chart of the FDI to Georgia. And you can see it starts with the United Kingdom, all countries across, and China comes at the very end of it. And even more, for the demonstration, I have made another chart comparing small country Malta to big country China in terms of FDI to Georgia. And on this chart, you can see that it's not only the United States, European Union, UK, or other big players, but even a country like Malta is dominating over Chinese investments to Georgia. And I think this speaks volumes about their actual interest and involvement. And finally, this is the chart of the 10 largest foreign direct countries with the largest foreign direct investments in Georgia over the course of last 10 years. There is no China. There is no China among the first top 10 investors in Georgia. But again, as it was said, they win all the contracts, they benefit from all the money that is coming as aid or through the financial institutions to Georgia, and using those kleptocratic networks of the Georgian government with the Chinese, implementing those projects. The consequences are grave. Georgia is drifting into authoritarianism, and it does not threaten only its own people, but we believe it directly undermines US's interests in the region. It weakens the reliability of the Middle Corridor. It weakens the security of the transit routes that fly through Georgia. It reduces US's influence in the Black Sea and Eurasia at a time when Russia and China are fighting for expanding theirs. And it emboldens authoritarian regimes by providing that Western allies can be peeled away and democratic experiments reversed. This is not simply Georgia's internal problem. It is a strategic setback for the entire transatlantic community. Our competitive advantage never was oil and gas. It was a democratic Georgia, European, free, ready to stand side by side with the United States and European allies. It has threatened Moscow's imperial projects and ambitions. If Georgia can succeed, then Russians may ask, why not us? If Georgians can live under the rule of law, then Belarusians will wonder, why not us? Georgia's transformation was infectious. Starting from the Rose Revolution, all across the board, it was dominating the debate. And for Russia, China, Iran, and every other authoritarian power, this was deeply alarming and dangerous. And that is precisely why Russia, and now increasingly China, have a vested interest in undermining our sovereignty, corrupting our institutions, and dragging us back into the orbit of authoritarianism. But for the conclusion, I should say that there are good news. Georgian people have not given up. Despite repression, propaganda, ruling parties' betrayal of our democratic aspirations, Georgians remain overwhelmingly pro-Western. Poll after poll, it shows support for European Union and NATO membership at highest heights. The people continue to believe in freedom, and they continue to believe in the United States. This distinction matters, because when we speak of Georgia today, we must not confuse the government with the nation. Georgians continue to wave American and EU flags at protests. They continue to demand Georgia belong to Europe and to the democratic world. Georgia has always relied on US support, and in these difficult times, we need it more than ever. We need you to stand by us while we talk to our friends or our enemies. At the heart of these conversations are the questions of EU membership, NATO membership, and realities of Russian occupation. We fight every day, and we need all the support we can get. Sanctions, diplomatic measures targeting political elite of the Georgian dream, enablers of the regime, Russian-style propaganda machinery, and the ideologists of Putin-driven policy. This brings me to the role the United States can play with very concrete issues. First, targeted accountability. Sanctions and visa bans should be directed at the ruling elite, their families, their enablers. Punish those who betray Georgia. More sanctions for GD leadership, more scholarships for Georgian youth and students. 2, support for democratic institutions and civil society. Assist independent media, civil society organizations, grassroots movements. These are the lifelines of democracy in Georgia today. 3, stand explicitly with the Georgian people. Make clear that US support is for democracy, sovereignty, and independence, not for the ruling party undermining the most important values of the Georgian state. 4, support bipartisan legislation, the Megobari Act, that represents exactly the kind of sustained strategic support that can help Georgian civil society, independent media, and reformers to survive. Targeted sanctions against those who undermine democracy and tirelessly make friends with axis of evil, enemies of the US and democratic transatlantic partners, are equally vital. Megobari Act sends the strongest possible signal that Georgia's democratic future remains a US strategic priority. It provides tools to hold accountable those who undermine democracy while strengthening the capacity of civil society. Invest in the middle corridor and connectivity. Georgia's strategic geography must not be left to Chinese, Russian, or Iranian influence. 6, deepen security cooperation. Georgia has shown through its contribution in Afghanistan and Iraq that it is a reliable security partner. Renewed defense cooperation, joint trainings, strong deterrence measures in the Black Sea are not gifts. They are mutually beneficial investments. And finally, maintain people-to-people ties, scholarships, exchanges, cultural programs. These are very important. Georgian story is not finished. We have stumbled, but we have not fallen. Georgian people remain committed to the values that made us partners of the United States in the first place. We are at a moment of profound danger, yet if left to drift, Georgia may indeed slide deeper into authoritarianism and away from the West. But with US support, steadfast, bipartisan, principled, Georgia can reclaim its role as a beacon of democracy, stability, and business opportunity in the Black Sea. Thank you very much, and looking forward for your questions.
And thank you.